The Senate will come to order. Members, please stand for the prayer. Today's chaplain is Reverend Hans Jorgensen from St. Timothy Lutheran Church in St. Paul. And following the prayer, please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I come from a Lutheran tradition where there are often a lot of disagreements and divisions, and so I really appreciate the writing that Paul did to the Corinthians, where there were also a lot of divisions. And he said, faith, hope, and love abide, these three, and the greatest of these is love. And I know how often I fall short of it, and so I'd like to bear that in mind as we pray. God of the whole spectrum, teach us to love as you love us. Show us deeper within our shared humanity and higher above our limited frame to glimpse what you can see. Teach us to love like a parent caring for a hurting child, like a neighbor showing up for a grieving neighbor. Teach us to love police officers, healthcare workers, essential laborers who do hard work on our behalf. Teach us to love neighbors who are black, indigenous, and brown, who are yearning for the promises that I enjoy, women who far too frequently bear the brunt of economic hardship, families without safe homes. Teach us to love those who are neurodiverse, physically challenged, senior citizens whose humanity is too easily overlooked. Teach us to love in public as we seek justice. And at the end of the day, teach us how fiercely you love us, bent, broken, traumatized, struggling us. Hold us so deeply that your love may suffuse every corpuscle of our being and show us how holy it is simply to be alive. God of all, teach us to love. Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The Secretary will take the roll.
Senators Abler, Anderson, Bach, Benson, Bigham, Carlson, Chamberlain, Champion, Clausen, Coleman, Swazinski, Dames, Dibble, Dornick, Draheim, Duckworth, Dietzick, Eaton, Eichhorn, Eakin, Fateh, Franzen, Friends, Gazelka, Goggin, Herr, Hoffman, Housley, Howe, Ingebrigtsen, Isaacson, Jasinski, Johnson, Stewart, Kent, Kiffmeyer, Klein, Karan, Kunish, Lang, Latz, Limmer, Marty, Matthews, McEwen, Miller, Murphy, Nelson, Newman, Newton, Osmick, Pappas, Port, Pratt, Putnam, Rarick, Rest, Rosen, Rude, Senjum, Thomasoni, Torres Ray, Utke, Weber, Westrom, Uyghur, Wickland.
A quorum is present. Pursuant to Rule 14.1, the following members intend to vote under Rule 40.7. Senators Anderson, Carlson, Clausen, Dietzick, Eaton, Howe, Isaacson, Klein, Kunesh, Latz, Marty, Matthews, Newman, Newton, Rosen, Senjum, Thomasoni, Torres Ray, Weber, and Wickland. We'll begin on the Senate agenda today with the second order of business, executive and official communications. Please make note of the communications that were received. There's no further action required on the second order of business. Moving to the third order of business, messages from the House. The Secretary will read the message.
Mr. President, I have the honor to announce the adoption by the House of the following Senate concurrent resolution herewith return. Senate concurrent resolution number 1, a Senate concurrent resolution relating to the adoption of the temporary joint rules. Patrick D. Murphy, Chief Clerk, House of Representatives.
There's no further action required on that business. Moving to the fifth order of business, reports of committees. Senator Gazelka.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the committee report printed in the agenda be adopted.
On that motion, all in favor say aye. Opposed say no. Motion prevails. Next, we'll move to the sixth order of business, second reading of Senate bills. The Secretary will read the Senate file number.
Senate file number 89.
Second reading. Moving to the eighth order of business, introduction and first reading of Senate bills listed in today's introduction calendar, or Senate file numbers 264 to 350. We do have 5 changes. The first is on page 1. Senate file 269 will be referred to the Committee on Human Services Licensing Policy. The next on page 3, Senate file 283 will be referred to the Committee on Environment, Natural Resources, Policy, and Legacy Finance. Page 4, Senate File 297 will be referred to the Committee on Human Services Licensing Policy. Page 7, Senate File 320 will also be referred to the Committee on Human Services Licensing Policy. And finally, on page 8, Senate File 336 will be referred to the Committee on Judiciary and Public Safety, Finance, and Policy. These Senate files are given their first reading and referred as indicated. Moving to the ninth order of business. Motions and resolutions. We have several authors' motions listed in the agenda. We'll take these authors' motions as one motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Motion prevails. Senator Champion.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that Senate file number 172 be withdrawn from the Committee on Judiciary and Public Safety, Finance, and Policy and be returned to me, the author. Thank you, Mr. President.
And Senator Champion, just to confirm, you are the author of the bill?
Thank you, Mr. President. I am the author of Senate file 172.
Discussion on the Champion motion. Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Opposed say no. Motion prevails. Senate Resolution number 13 will be referred to the Committee on Rules and Administration. Remaining under motions and resolutions, Senator Gazelka.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that Senate Resolution number 10 be taken from the table.
On that motion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Motion prevails. Senator Gazelka.
Mr. President, members, this is the senator's mileage resolution, and on here I have the A2 amendment to make some changes.
Senator Gazelka offers the A2 amendment. Any discussion on the A2 amendment? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. The Secretary will report the amendment.
Senator Gazelka moves to amend Senate Resolution number 10 as follows. Page 1, delete line 8 and insert. This is the A2 amendment.
Now we'll vote on the A2 amendment. All those in favor say aye. Opposed say no. Motion prevails. Senator Gazelka.
Mr. President, I move that the Senate Resolution number 10 as amended be adopted.
Discussion on the Gazelka motion. Members, this motion does require a roll call. Seeing no further discussion, the Secretary will take the roll. Members in the retiring room, please come to the chamber to vote. Retiring room. Members in room 303 and members in the President's office, please come to the chamber to vote. Members in room 237, please come to the chamber to vote. Room 237. And members in room 206, please come to the chamber to vote. Room 206. I will call on Senator Frentz to report the members voting under Rule 40.7. Senator Frentz.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Senator Carlson votes aye.
Carlson votes aye. Senator Frentz.
Senator Clausen votes aye.
Clausen votes aye. Senator Frentz.
Senator Dietzick votes aye.
Dietzick votes aye. Senator Frentz.
Senator Eaton votes aye.
Eaton votes aye. Senator Frentz.
Senator Isaacson votes aye.
Isaacson votes aye. Senator Frentz.
Senator Klein votes aye.
Klein votes aye. Senator Frentz.
Senator Kunish votes aye.
Kunish votes aye. Senator Frentz.
Senator Latz votes aye.
Latz votes aye. Senator Frentz.
Senator Marty votes aye.
Marty votes aye. Senator Frentz.
Senator Newton votes aye.
Newton votes aye. Senator Frentz.
Senator Torres Ray votes aye.
Torres Ray votes aye. Senator Frentz.
And Senator Wickland votes aye.
Wickland votes aye.
Thank you.
Senator Bach.
Tomasoni votes aye.
Tomasoni votes aye.
Who just won? He sent me a text this morning.
Senator Jasinski.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Anderson votes aye.
Anderson votes aye. Senator Jasinski.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Newman votes aye.
Newman votes aye. Senator Jasinski.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Howell votes aye.
Howe votes aye. Senator Jasinski.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Weber votes aye.
Weber votes aye. Senator Jasinski.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Matthews votes aye.
Matthews votes aye. Senator Jasinski.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Rosen votes aye.
Rosen votes aye. Senator Jasinski.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Senjum votes aye.
Senjum votes aye. All members having voted who have the desire to vote, the secretary will close the roll. There being 66 ayes and 0 nays, the motion prevails and the resolution is adopted. Senator Gazelka, remaining under motions and resolutions.
Mr. President, pursuant to Rule 26, I designate Senate File Number 192 be made a special order for immediate consideration.
Members, up for consideration is Senate File 192, Senator Pratt.
Thank you, Mr. President. As I get started on Senate File 192, I'd like to thank my co-sponsors, Senator Rarick, and Senator Champion was supposed to be on the bill, and I know he sent an email, and I'm pleased that he decided to join on. Mr. President, Senate File 192 is a request that started with deed and is also very important to our employers that had to lay off their employees due to the pandemic and due to the negative impacts of the governor's executive orders. Normally, when a business lays off their staff, they have an increase of what's called their experience rating. They're paying a higher premium into the unemployment insurance program because they've had layoffs and had to draw from the insurance pool. This bill will allow us, well, what we want to make sure is that our employers aren't penalized for the impacts of the COVID and of the executive orders. And so this has 3 main objectives. One, it holds employers harmless for all COVID-related layoffs. It gives time for DEED to calculate the appropriate experience rating going forward by holding all employers' rates flat for 2021. And new employers will be assigned their industry average for unemployment. And it holds the taxable income flat to 2020, so we won't see an increase as we would have expected. Mr. President, this is a very technical and simple bill. It has bipartisan support, it has the support of the agency, and it's important that we pass it before the end of the month, and I request all members vote in favor. And I'll be happy to stand for questions.
Discussion on Senate File 192, Senator Champion.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you to Senator Pratt for bringing forth this bill and also being clear that I am a co-author on this bill. I'd like to just remind folks that Senate File 192 is supported by also the administration. This is something, as Senator Pratt has so eloquently articulated, was first brought forward by Commissioner Grove from DEED. And the reason why Commissioner DEED and the administration, as well as all of us, supports this is because it seeks not to penalize businesses who suffer from the pandemic that led to a number of layoffs. As we all know, that we're in an unprecedented time, and we have a crisis that we all must deal with in real time. And so the governor, the administration, and all of us seeks to strengthen our businesses and protect employees and employers as we navigate through this unprecedented crisis. So I encourage you to support Senate File 192. Thank you so very much.
Further discussion on Senate File 192. The Secretary will give the bill its third reading.
Senate File Number 192, a bill for an act relating to unemployment insurance.
Third reading. Members, any final discussion on the bill? We're on final passage of Senate File 192. Seeing no further discussion, the Secretary will take the roll. Members in the retiring room, please come to the chamber to vote. Members in room 303, please come to the chamber to vote. And members in the President's office, please come to the chamber to vote. Members in room 237, please come to the chamber to vote. And members in room 206, please come to the chamber and vote. I will call on Senator Bach to report the votes of members voting under Rule 40.7. Senator Bach.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Thomasoni votes aye.
Thomasoni votes aye. Senator Frentz.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Carlson votes aye.
Carlson votes aye. Senator Frentz.
Senator Clausen votes aye.
Clausen votes aye. Senator Frentz.
Senator Dietzick votes aye.
Dietzick votes aye. Senator Frentz.
Senator Eaton votes aye.
Eaton votes aye. Senator Frentz.
Senator Isaacson votes aye.
Isaacson votes aye. Senator Frentz.
Senator Klein votes aye.
Klein votes aye. Senator Frentz.
Senator Kunish votes aye.
Kunish votes aye. Senator Frentz.
Senator Latz votes aye.
Latz votes aye. Senator Frentz.
Senator Marty votes aye.
Marty votes aye. Senator Frentz.
Senator Newton votes aye.
Newton votes aye. Senator Frentz.
Senator Torres Ray votes aye.
Torres Ray votes aye.
And Senator Wicklund votes aye.
Wicklund votes aye.
Thank you.
Senator Jasinski.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Anderson votes aye.
Anderson votes aye. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Newman votes aye.
Newman votes aye. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Howe votes aye.
Howe votes aye. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Weber votes aye.
Weber votes aye. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Matthews votes aye.
Matthews votes aye. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Rosen votes aye.
Rosen votes aye. Senator Jasinski.
And Senator Senjum votes aye.
Senjum votes aye. All members having voted who have the desire to vote, the Secretary will close the roll. There being 66 ayes and 0 nays, the bill is passed and its title agreed to. Next, we'll move to the 13th order of business, announcements of Senate interest. Without objection, the following senator will be excused from today's session: Senator Dibble. Announcements of Senate interest, Senator Limmer.
Thank you, Mr. President. Today I have a sad announcement. One of our former members passed away this last week, Senator Jim Vickerman. Many of you are recent to the Minnesota Senate, but those of us who have served here a while remember Jim as a senator who represented the very southwest corner of Minnesota. And that particular area, of course, had many agricultural and rural challenges, and he served them very well. I remember a very congenial, friendly senator who crossed the line many times between Democrat and Republican and actually got a lot of things done, not only for the entire state of Minnesota, but for his community. He served here 24 years, which is quite a lengthy time. And nevertheless, he passed away last week. He served in his most recent capacity as chairman of the Agriculture Committee. And he also served as a commissioner of Murray County, county commissioner, for 6 years prior to his service in the Senate. He was married to his wife, Weva, for 70 years. And I'm sure that family will experience quite a loss, but certainly have tremendous memories of Jim. He left a legacy of public service, not only to the state of Minnesota, but to his community, and certainly a legacy to his family. And Mr. President, I would hope we would have a moment of silence for the memory of Jim Vickerman.
Members, before we do a moment of silence, we have a few more members that would like to speak.
Sorry.
I have Senator Rest, and then, or Senator Pappas, and then Senator Rest. Senator Pappas.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, Senator Limmer, for that great introduction. What I did over the weekend is I surveyed some of our past members and our staff, and I wanted to share some of their comments about Senator Vickerman as well as my own. From Marty Seifert, he says, "Rest in peace to my friend and former state senator Jim Vickerman of Tracy, who passed away. Jim served a long time and was a gentleman, a thoughtful moderate, and a great public servant. The state of Minnesota is better off because Jim Vickerman served as a lawmaker." Dick Cohen said he was a pure advocate for farmers. He really represented what the F in DFL means. He understood that totally. Senator Ellen Anderson told Jim that she'd support ethanol if he supported wind energy. He became her best friend and followed her lead on renewable energy. Don Jarofsky said Jim was a good guy and he'll be missed. Christine Almeida, I'm really sad to hear this news. He was one of my favorites. John Call, he was a nice man. Bob Ambrose, very sad to hear this. As a former county commissioner, he was unpretentious, was always in touch with the folks back home, knew how to listen, and knew how to find practical solutions to problems. And he was a nice guy. Others, a genuinely kind man, treated staff well, always had a smile for them. And he was welcoming, even-handed leader, and a sweet guy. a nice man and a gentleman, a soft-spoken gentleman, earnest and steadfast in his principles and in representing his constituents. I have fond memories of serving with Jim. He was a credit to the Minnesota Senate, and that was from Jean Miriam. And my own story about him is he was a little old school, as you can imagine, and he had a habit of addressing the males who testified in his committee as Mr., and then when a woman appeared, he'd say her first name. So one day all the mayors were testifying, and it was Mr. Mayor, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Mayor, and then Mayor Karen Anderson of Minnetonka came up, and he said, "Welcome, Karen." So I sent him a little note because we had this ethics brochure that said how you were supposed to address members of the public. And I just sent it to him privately so he would know. And he looked at the note and he said, "Oh, I guess I made a mistake here. So sorry, Madam Mayor." So he was very willing to admit when he'd made a little error. So he was, as people said, a sweet guy, and he'll be greatly missed by, I'm sure, all of his family, his friends, and his Minnesota Senate family. I'll turn it over now to Ann Rest.
Senator Rest.
Which is to say, Senator Ann Rest. Senator Pappas. No, you just said my first name. Members of the Senate, it is a privilege to join the eulogies for Senator Jim Vickerman. Senator Pappas mentioned some of the comments of people who had served in the Senate or who knew Senator Vickerman as because they were lobbyists. But there are 15 of us, either in this chamber or participating remotely, that served with Jim, that served on various committees. And I did have the list written down, and actually I left it in my car. So you know who you are. I went through the red books for the last, for all the years that Jim was here, looking for the names of those who are still among us, Republicans and Democrats alike, and certainly Senator Limmer, who is the senior member of the Republican caucus, had that privilege, as well as Senator Marty, Senator Pappas, Senator Uyghur, and myself, who are senior members of the DFL party. Jim Vickerman defined the F in the DFL party, the Democratic Farmer Labor Party. There was no mistake about where his first love of policy was, and that was certainly in agriculture. I had the privilege of serving on the Agriculture and Veterans Committee, and I learned a lot about floating. And I think some people here know what that is. I had no idea, but we had at least 2 or 3 hearings on floating, teeth floating. And what scope of practice should it be for someone to come in and file off a horse's teeth? I learned a lot about horses' teeth. I also supported Jim during some very challenging times dealing with whether or not Minnesota was going to expand gambling. That was a jurisdiction in one term that he had, and we were equally opposed to it, and I was glad to be his partner in it. In addition, another topic that is not so much a controversial one nowadays, because we figured it out. It was very controversial back then, and that was all the issues concerned with annexation. And Jim was the chair of the committee that dealt with annexation, and I worked with him on that. And then finally, We make a lot of comments about our Senate family, but our Senate family is not just those of us who are here, those of us who have served before. It also reaches out to the community that Senator Pappas mentioned, but also to the executive branch. And I remember very, very clearly Governor Pawlenty, when Senator Vickerman's son died. He actually invited me to ride with him on the state plane just to go to the funeral of the son of one of our members. For myself, that experience also happened with Governor Pawlenty when the biggest array of flowers and plants at my mother's funeral was from Tim Pawlenty. Our family is a family of the legislature, even when we are at each other's throats, sometimes in disagreements, personal and policy-wise. But I think there's an overlayer of respect, compassion, kindness, and the sense of family. And Jim Vickerman's life was an example of that, and I'm privileged to have known him. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Bach.
Well, thank you, Mr. President, and my heart goes out to Weva and the family. I spent several years in the same suite with Senator Vickerman over in 226 on the east side of the Capitol, and he became a close friend. And I can't think of a kinder person in this that ever served in this body than Jim Vickerman was. And when his son passed away, that Senator Rest mentioned, I remember Senator Dean Johnson at the time was Majority Leader, and he rented a bus for us members to go there, and it was kind of a rattle trap. It was kind of a rough ride down there, but what I so fondly remember are all the members on both sides of the aisle that took a day out of the session and went down to Tracy, which is, it's not a short distance from here, and to be with Jim and Weva that day. So that tragedy that Jim and Weva went through really helped me understand this institution and the collegial nature of this body. Now, a little fun story of Jim. There was a little expression about Jim here for those of us that knew him well, but if leadership ever went to Jim to ask for his vote for something, Jim had this kind of canned line that he would give. If it was a controversial vote, he'd say, I'll be with you. I'll be with you till I can't be with you anymore. And we would chuckle about that all the time. But he was that kind of a thoughtful guy that he tried to listen to all of the debate, all of the advice, all of the lobbyists on both sides of issues before he came to a conclusion, and he understood that, sometimes your opinion on something changes when you learn more information. So just wanted to say hi to Weva. I remember I called Jim about a year after he retired from here, and Weva answered the phone, and I said, well, Weva, I said, where's Jim? She said, well, he's out snow blowing the driveway. I said, really? I didn't realize it had snowed. And she said, Tom, he goes out there one day and he blows the snow from one side of the driveway to the other, and he goes out the next day and he blows the snow from that side of the driveway to the other side for something to do. So anyway, I didn't want to disturb his snow blowing, so I asked Weva, well, have Jim call me back when he gets done with the driveway. And he called me back right away, and I'll never forget him saying, man, I miss you guys. He really, really loved this place. So Weva and family, on behalf of myself, my deep felt condolences, and God bless your family.
Senator Uyghur.
Thank you, Mr. President. When I was first elected, 1996, and went through orientation, et cetera, you are asked, where do you want to sit? And I said, where am I going to learn a lot? and especially rural Minnesota perspectives. And I did not know who Jim Vickerman was, but I requested if I could please be his seatmate. In fact, it was right here where Senator Vickerman was, and I here. And over the next several years, I learned so much about a first-class individual, about his pride in his district, about working together. Senator, there were a lot of us in this corner, and I remember Cal, well, I won't go through all the names, but Langseth and this whole ring. And regardless of party, just talking and getting to know each other, and Jim would be sort of a center of that. He was so proud of local government. He also spoke strongly for veterans and always made a special point of that, of carrying legislation. Agriculture, what a legacy there. And also, Highway 60, he reminded us of the death trap that was, and continually would advocate for the 4 lanes, and he was persistent. One item that I always got a kick out of was in a bonding bill, there was a request for the relocation of the Schubert Theater, which had a bit of discussion, but he always referred to it as the Sherbert. And we knew it meant Schubert, and I think he knew what it was, but he saw the big picture in terms of us all getting along. So I am honored to have had the privilege of serving with Jim. I appreciate his being such a good mentor, and part of that legacy is that we need to work together, and may that inspire us ahead. Thank you.
Members, please stand for a moment of silence to honor and remember the late Senator Jim Vickerman. Thank you, members. Any other announcements of Senate interest? Senator Gazelka.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, first of all, that was very moving. I appreciate all the members that shared the stories of Senator Vickerman. It's just a reminder to all of us as we are here, what are we going to be remembered for? And clearly he was a statesman. So, Mr. President, I move that the Senate do now adjourn until Thursday, January 28th at 11 a.m.
Senator Gazelka moves that the Senate do now adjourn until Thursday, January 28th, 2021 at 11 a.m. All those in favor say aye. Opposed say no. Motion prevails. The Senate is adjourned.